Yes.
Okay.
Okay, let's start this meeting over. We have a feature in Zoom that we can use that could be very helpful during meetings, and it's called the chat feature. And on the desktop, it's at the bottom. And if you kind of hover around, and you can click this now, it's not going to affect anything you're seeing. Do you see it? It looks like the balloon you would have if you had a cartoon. I don't know where it is on the phone or the iPad, but on a desktop, it's at the bottom. And when you click chat, you get a little screen at the side, and you can type a message, and you can type it to everyone. Or if you select everyone, I could type a message just to Paris, and she and I can have a little side conversation while y'all are doing something else. So just be wary. So does everybody see that? In fact, I'm going to do it. I'm going to start a little chat. You can. And now, can you answer my little chat? Can you say hi to me?
Mm-hmm.
Diane did. So this is very handy, particularly we could use it to show and tell in the future, where if you got a show and tell, you put it on the chat at the beginning. So I got a show and tell so he doesn't miss you. Anybody having trouble finding it?
Well, I just typed hi, but it came in as Paris. Paris, did you type hi?
I did.
Typed hi.
Okay, because I typed hi as well. And
Is anybody else on an iPad?
I'm not.
I was going to say, I didn't do anything, and I got your message, and then I just had to tap your message and respond. So it's real easy.
But it's really nice if you do need to remember something you need to tell someone. So you go down here where everyone and select someone's name, and then you're just chatting with that person. It's kind of like being in a meeting and you get a little bit rude, I guess, and talking off to the side. But that's my tip for the day. Now I'm going to go to the program.
It's also great when someone is giving the program and you've got a question that you don't want to shout it out because, maybe they're showing a video or talking.
Especially
you can type that question.
A video. Now, my program today, you can interrupt me anytime because I'm doing a slideshow. So I hope so. Let me see if I can share my screen now.
You want me to spotlight you?
Do you think? All right. Now,
no, I don't need to. It came up.
Yeah. Okay. We're going to talk about wool. And I don't know about you. I lived in the South, but I wore wool skirts when I was going to school. And never thought much about it, but there's so many cool things about wool. We've kind of forgotten about it. First off, I want to tell you there are hundreds of varieties of sheep. And you may say, I have a wool allergy. Very, very few people have a true wool allergy. What you have is a wool sensitivity. And that could be because of the variety of sheep. Like a Shetland sheep is not good next to the skin. It's going to make you itch. Whereas a merino, they're bred to be a little more skin friendly. Also, where the sheep live, you could take a sheep in one environment, like a very cold environment, and that same breed of sheep, put it in a warmer environment, you're going to get a different kind of wool. The Spanish brought over sheep, and of course, they settled down in Florida and Central America. Well, gosh, it's really hot there, and sheep are not hot weather animals. So they finally just realized this is useless, and they just turned the sheep loose. And the sheep actually, they became feral, and some of them survived, and they learned to survive in this very hot, humid climate. And their wool is, it's really nasty. It's not very good wool, but they are sheep. It's called a coastal wool. The other thing that can make you sensitive to wool is the way they process it, because not generally, sheep are nasty. They are dirty. When you get a sheep fleece, and I don't mess with fleeces for this reason, they're just covered in dirt and burrs and poop. It's just nasty. So when they process wool in factories to make yarn or fabric, they use sulfuric acid, which strips everything, all of the impurities. It also takes the scales off of the sheep fiber. And that could be what you're sensitive to, is that sulfuric acid, because I don't think you ever get it out. And the other thing with the sheep, they're constantly making new breeds. They're crossbreeding. Now, if you went to Ireland, you saw a lot of sheep. But I'm going to tell you, you probably did not see one single sheep that would be fitting to make a sweater. All that they grow, unless it's a heritage breed and somebody's doing a little something on the side, all of the sheep in Ireland pretty much are for meat. And meat sheep generally don't make good wool sheep. So there's all sorts of things about myths about wool. But I have this book, and you see how thick it is. And it's the Fleece and Fiber Source book. And I just love sitting down reading about all the different kinds of sheep. The thing about wool, well, it's a natural fiber. It's also, it regulates your body temperature. It keeps you dry. It wicks. And I don't know about you, when I wore the wool skirts to school, I only had them cleaned once a year. I mean, we didn't, at the end of the year, all our wool went to the cleaners and then it came back and we stored it for the next year. And that's because wool generally, if it gets an odor, you just kind of hang it up and it goes away. Wool's very biodegradable. You put it in a landfill, it won't be there very long. Wool also is a natural sunscreen, and it's also fire resistant. So it has a lot of good qualities. And I'm talking about yarn and fabric. Most of the wool, what people will say, well, what's smart wool? Because you buy smart wool. Well, it's typically a merino, and a merino is a wool sheep. A sheep is a big sheep, and it makes a soft fiber. It's what socks are generally made of. And it's usually itch-free, less likely to shrink. Now, I'm not to say it will not shrink. My smart wool, I will put it in the washer, but I will not put it in the dryer. It wicks wonderfully. I made a smart wool. It was knitted. We call them a jersey, but it was to bike in. I wear that, and I have an underlayer of a merino wool, and then an underlayer of one of these high-tech shirts. I wear that instead of a jacket, and I even got caught in the rain, and I didn't get wet because it just kind of beads up on it. And I read the other day that it's antimicrobial, so it's not supposed to harbor things, bacteria. Now, what I'm going to do today is show you how I have processed some wool. And what I want you to think about, every piece of fabric you use, regardless of the fiber, starts with a thread, a very tiny thread now. And that's what I'm going to show you, how these threads, whether it's cotton or wool or a blend, it starts with a thread. And they have to blend these fibers to make this thread. And then the thread is woven into fabric. So that's what I want to kind of show you, how this all is broken down on one level versus an industrial level. Because, be honest with you, some of these, our industrial level of fabric is relatively new, because people were making fabric. Well, they were making fabric 1,000 years before we had industrial. So this, what I want to show you here, is my drum carder. And let's see. Oh, here we go. This drum carder, it's got a drum, and I'm gonna run the little video in the background. And what it does, I've got this fiber, and this is roving. This is a merino. Somebody dyed it, and it made it real stiff, so it's hard to spin. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to blend this with some other things. If you think about it, if you buy something that's got sparkles or some kind of glitz in it, it's done on an industrial level, but this is a hand way of doing it. And so I'm just taking it through the small cylinder here and rolling it on the big cylinder. And I'm pulling it apart. This is actually called roving. So I can line it up and pull it through. And I'm gonna try to speed this up a little bit. I made them very short, but you see how it's going on that? It's lining the fibers up. I'm not a great spinner. This makes my life a lot easier. Some people can spin from this. And while I'm doing this, I'll talk about cotton. Cotton's very difficult to spin for me. Well, it's for most people, but there are people that are very good at it because it's so short. It has to be spun so fast. And I'll show you what's going on. So I'm gonna still running this through. I didn't have it locked down good, but we'll keep going. And I got the audio off on this because this thing makes a lot of noise. Now, these are little Wensleydale locks. And I thought they were really cool, and I bought a whole bag of them. So I thought, oh, I'm going to blend this. Well, it didn't work out too well. You'll see. I blended somewhat, but it turns out not to be what I want. So if you were in an industrial environment and they wanted to blend, of course, they got it all computerized. They would start mixing these fibers before they actually spun them. And there's trying. Not real happy with this, but I'm making the video, so it's going to have to go. Try a little more. So I got something exciting to blend that is happening. Put a little more fiber on it. This also, you'll see when I start putting other colors in. If you've done any painting and you blend colors, you do the same thing with this. You can blend two colors. If you blend your blues and your yellows, you're going to get a green. If you blend too many colors, you're going to get mud. Just like in painting. It's amazing how that works. You wouldn't think. Okay, we're going to go to the next one. I got a little discouraged with that, and I went to bring out some other things. So I found some other roving, some purple. I wasn't happy with the Wensleydale, but I want to do some blending. Now this one, whoever dyed this, they were pretty heavy on the heat. You have to be so careful because it will felt. Now felting, and I know we've all accidentally felted sweaters, and I know we have purposely felted sweaters and other things. And you can felt, I tried to dye some fiber and I ended up with a very nice dark blue rope because I boiled it. And that's two things you don't do to fiber. That's heat and agitation. You can do heat or you can do agitation. So now you see that's blending those together. Now this is sari silk threads. Just in India, they found very creative ways to recycle what they would normally throw away. And these are the threads from the factory where they make the saris. And they're not suitable as sewing threads, but they're great for blending. And they even tried making some yarn out of it. It wasn't very good. And you can blend this in with the fiber. And then when you spin it, it all goes together. So now I've got a wool blend. I've got some merino wool, and I don't know what the purple was. And I got some Wensleydale, and I've got some silk. And I'm going to put a little more of the, this is actually a red. It's kind of hard to see here. I tried different things with the silk, just playing with it. This is what got me into spinning. I watched people, I was at a retreat and they were doing the carding, and the carding just fascinated me. And I'm very particular about my carding. I don't like lumps and bumps. It's got to be pretty well done before I'm just trying to smooth it out and get it even. Speed it up. Oh yeah, I'll speed it up. Now this is fun. See the sparkle? This is called Angelina or Firestarter. And it's actually little bits of a synthetic that I'm going to blend in with this. And I like a little bling in my stuff. I think we all do. And so that's going to blend in it also. So I'm going to go ahead and go to the next one because I'm just adding a little more stuff. Now, here's where I've got my bat made. And I got to get it off this drum. I mean, I can't just lift it off. Well, it has a little divot here. And what I do is I go in and I'm literally breaking the fiber apart because it's pretty well melded together, which is not going to hurt anything. So there's that Wensleydale. That didn't work. And break some more apart. Bring all the way across. And I'll save those little flecks because I will spin those. And then in the industrial, they've got something to go in there. It's on the big drums because they're using big drums also, and they'll pull all this apart. Speed a little bit. Doesn't like me. There we go. Now, I took my handy dandy placemat from the Dollar Tree. I saw this on YouTube. And to get my fiber off, I press and just roll it off. Some of it's sticking a little bit, but it's going to roll right off the drum. And those little things sticking up that it's on, that they are very sharp. You could really hurt yourself on a drum carder. See, there's the Angelina. It's all blended in it. And by the time I finished this bat, I probably had maybe an hour and a half in it, maybe a little more. It's slow work. You see the purple. It's coming off really clean because I do have to clean the strum carder each time. It's just like when you're mixing paint, if you leave paint, especially watercolors. All right, now we're going to do the unveiling. And here's my, this is now called a bat. Here. And it's got those little strings in it. Let's see some of the things that are in the back. And now I've got to clean my drum carder. I'm not going to bore you with that, but I will show you the brush. This is how I clean it. This came off really clean. I did a good job. Okay. Now these are hand carders. If you didn't have a drum carder, you've probably seen these in demonstrations at historical sites. They used to hand card this. This is how they used to get the seeds out of cotton, was hand carding. I had some hand cards, and when I moved, I decided I'm not doing that anymore. Okay, here's my bat. And now I'm going to get ready to spin it. Well, to spin it, what I'm going to do, I'm going to pull a piece off the side. You see the colors in it? And that'll be my bat. Now, here's my spinning wheel. It's a Magic Craft spinning wheel. It was made in New Zealand. It's called a castle wheel. I liked it because it's small. You can see it doesn't take up a lot of room. I've already got some yarn on there. Fun. That's the treadles. And this is the interesting thing about this wheel. You see these little ratios. How fast you spin something determines what you get. I'm a pretty consistent in what I do. I don't spin real fine. I don't spin real thick. And most spinners generally just spin one type of yarn unless they're real experts. And most good spinners spin very fine, thin yarn. I haven't achieved that because I don't practice. But by having all these different ratios, I can literally spin anything. I have spun cotton on this wheel. I've taken 2 classes in spinning cotton. And unless I've got somebody there to hold my hand and set this thing up, I can't spin cotton. It's very difficult. And I taught the lady that taught the last class I took, it took her years to learn to spin cotton. So I said, I'm not going to spin cotton. So now we'll move on to the spinning. And what I'm doing, I'm holding the roving. I'm pedaling. I'll show you the next one and see how it comes out here. Comes out there. And this is what my feet are doing. I apologize. My feet are not very attractive, but you just spin better barefooted. You got to feel the. And now you can see I'm spinning, and the yarn is being taken up on the spindle. And I splurged for a woolly winder. I won't go into what that is, but I just say it's the best thing you want for a spinning wheel. And here it is, just from another view. Spinning up. It's very relaxing. It's a great thing. I don't enjoy doing it alone. To me, it's more of a group thing. And in history, it was a group thing. And now you can see. Now, also, I'm spinning. You probably can't tell here because everything's backwards. I am spinning clockwise, even though it looks on this. And I'll get into that why I always spin clockwise on the next one. And this is what I'm trying to show here. You see, I doubled the yarn back on itself. Let's see, make it a little further. So I could see what it's going to look like when I apply it. See how the energy applied back on itself. And I've got a little plying demonstration too. Okay, this is plying. I got a different yarn here. This is something I already had. This is not yarn I spun here. This is some yarn I bought from a lady. It's silk, and she recycled a sweater. She unraveled a sweater, and I tried that once. This is some Icelandic wool that I spun, and it's in a ball that I'm going to center pull, and I'm going to outside pull. So I'm going to have 3 plies, because all threads, and I'd say most all threads and all yarns have plies. That's what sets them in place. Now, when I apply this, I'm going to spin the opposite. I'm going to go counterclockwise, because if I went clockwise, it just doesn't spin it. And this Icelandic wool, I bought 2 bundles of it in at a retreat. It's the most wonderful wool I've ever. It's very warm, and the Icelandic sheep are just really cool. But I have yet to find any. I go to the Southeastern Animal Fiber Fair before COVID every year, and there's a man there with Icelandic wool, and apparently he doesn't live in a cold enough climate. He doesn't make good wool, so I won't buy it. So we'll give you a little demonstration of plying. So what's happening as I spin it, you can't see my hands. I'm sorry. I did the best I could on recording. I am plying 3 together, and you hear 8 ply, 4 ply, 2 ply. Does not necessarily determine how thick your yarn or thread is, but it does determine the number, the stability of it. Okay. And so that's my presentation. Let me unshare my screen. And I got some things I want to show you. The spinning wheel is what we call a relatively new invention. Say 300 or 400 years old, the hand spinning wheel. Up to then, well, originally, people spun on something like this. This is, I don't think the light's helping me. No. This is literally, this little thing here is 1,000 years old. Archaeologists just give them away because they're like trash. They would take a bit of clay and they'd make a whirl, and with a hole in it to put their spindle, they'd find a stick, and they'd throw them in the fire to fire them, and they didn't bother to keep up with them. So it's kind of like, I don't know what we have equivalent to it, but they find them in trash. So it's pretty easy to buy one, and they're pretty cheap. And I did a little bit of spinning on it. It's a very difficult spindle to use. It's a supported spindle. This spindle, and I'd love to take a class in this because this is a Russian spindle, not made in Russia, but it's the Russian style. It's a supported spindle. So you put it in here and you spin your yarn from the tip. I don't have any experience in that. This is a typical drop spindle. And tell you what, you drop it a lot. And I've spun some on it. And it spins and it just gathers it up. I took several classes in drop spindle and didn't get very good. So I kept buying spindles thinking that would do it. That didn't help either. So I thought I got a spinning wheel. Well, when I got my wheel, here's some of the first one. I made a bat just like I showed you. And then I made this yarn, and this is recycled silk. There's some Angelina in it, and it's some Lancaster, blue face Leicester. And it's a cowl. I haven't worn it lately, but when I first moved here, I had an outside sales job. And this was great for going in and out of buildings.
Oh, wow.
It's very simple knit. But and if I go hiking, I often wear it. But that was out of my hand when I was very proud. And this little cowl, or neck warmer, I wanted to make something self-striping. In knitting, we buy yarns, and generally they're commercial yarns. So there's some people who dye them that they make stripes. Well, I wanted to try that in spinning. Well, I knew that if I had this wonderful colors, and I knew that if I just plied them together, it wasn't going to work. So I had to do what's called chain ply, which was like a crochet stitch. So it made a nice thick yarn. And I made this. Unfortunately, this is a very itchy yarn. I don't know what it is. I want to put in a little bit about how to care for wool fabric. And our biggest fear is Moths, if your fabric is clean or your sweater's clean, you're not going to have moths. And what I mean clean, you can't have not one speck of sweat, one cookie crumb, or one little skin flake. They will find it. So my advice, if you've got anything wool, clean it, have it clean the last time you wear it. And you don't even get after that, nothing's gonna, moths are not gonna bother. They only bother if it's not clean. And you think, well, I only wore it once. Well, you might have got a little bit of sweat on it, so be very careful with that. Here's some other, this is some I've spun. I don't know what I'm gonna do with it. And this one has a lot of sparkle in it. I got real heavy with the sparkle. This is that Icelandic wool, which I think I'm gonna have to make some hats out of that, and I may over dye it. I'm gonna talk just a minute about cotton. I want to show you, it's called a charka. This is from India. This is a book charka. Everything in here is all you need to spin cotton. And you see I have spun some. And the neat thing, if I can do this right, it closes up, I didn't get it quite, into a book. And they come from India. I took a class in it. I need to take another class in it. But that was a really neat experience. And just give you a little history on that. When Gandhi was sent to prison, he learned to spin, and he learned to spin cotton, and he learned to spin it on a handmade charka, a little bit, and they would spin sitting on the ground. And they say he literally saved India because he had everybody, by the time he came out of prison, he made sure everybody had a spinning wheel, not a fancy one, and everybody could spin cotton because India grows a lot of cotton. And he literally saved the country with the spinning wheel. Another little interesting fact, they were making mechanical, the spinners went back to spin. They take time off at Christmas and they go back on Distaff Day, which is the 4th of January. And women were not allowed to weave because to weave, you had to belong to a guild. And to belong to a guild, you had to be a man. So they were literally forbidden to weave. It was against the law. But the men couldn't weave until they had the yarn spun, and the women were generally the spinners. So they go back after the Christmas holiday, and they had Distaff Day, and the women would be spinning furiously, and the men are hanging around waiting for yarn, and that's when they get to know each other. It's kind of where a lot of relationships started. So the men really had to depend on the women. They couldn't weave any faster than the women could spin. Well, they started developing looms that were mechanical looms, the basis of our weaving looms today. But the men weren't worried about it because as long as women were spinning, they could only spin so fast. And then they developed the spinning jenny. And all of a sudden, the industrial age of fabric just took off because now you can spin on a mechanical spinning wheel and you can weave. And the weavers were losing their jobs. And it was much more, they were so connected, with their work and feeding their family. They were called the Luddites, and they actually attacked and destroyed these mills because they were losing their jobs to the mechanical weaving. So that's an interesting, when we got into industrial age, how people lost jobs and other people gained jobs. But that's basically about it. I hope I've given you a little insight and you'll appreciate that piece of fabric more than we do have all the mechanical. And if anybody has questions.
But Cindy, I have a question. When I was in Florida, I bought several pieces of what they called Florida wool, which, is lighter weight and it doesn't even feel like wool. So how is that different? What's different?
That is a superwash smart wool, and they're very guarded about how they make that because I tried to look that up. And basically what they do, they process the wool heavily with this, and of course it's finely spun and it's lightly knitted, and but they process it so it takes the scales and it takes all the lanolin. Wool has this lanolin. If you've ever bought lanolin lotion, and some people are sensitive to that, they strip the scales off the outside of the wool. And that's the properties that make it warmer. And they just spin it so fine and then they knit it or weave it so fine. So and Is it say it's washable, hand washable, or
Washed it.
you washed it? Yeah.
Mhm.
Because usually by the time they get through processing, it's pretty indestructible. It's
Yeah.
already been abused. But that's the only thing I could find any different between smart wool, Florida wool, and to me, it's all superwash wool.
Okay, thank you. Very interesting.
Okay, that's all I have.
Anybody else have any questions? Let me take Cindy off.
Yep.
Thanks, Cindy. I learned a lot about wool. I never knew.
Well, it's out there, and I'd like to find some more wool fabric. Like Jean said, the Florida wool, the lightweight wools. At the when we had the
It's
lady
harder
that,
to find
that
them.
passed away that had the
Yeah,
she had
some
a
of
business,
those.
and there were some nice wools in that.
Yes, there definitely were, but it is getting harder to find that lightweight wool. It's harder to find any good wools. I mean,
Yeah.
I grew up in a town that had a woolen mill, and
Yep.
we would just go to their store and buy beautiful wools, and my mother made coats, and but that's sort of a thing of the past with all the synthetic things that have come in. I think the natural fibers are kind of getting a comeback now, maybe, but for a long time, everybody wanted polyester and rayon and all these other things, and so
Well,
it's
what people don't realize, other than I think this processing with the sulfuric acid is pretty harsh, that wool is sustainable and our synthetics are not. They go in a landfill and they're there forever. They use an awful lot of water to be produced, and even some of your naturals like bamboo, there's expensive bamboo and there's cheaper bamboo, and the cheaper uses much more of our resources to make than the sustainable bamboo. It's just hard to do what's right.
and again, you go shopping for fabric, so much of it is made in China these days. Go to Joann's or go to Hobby Lobby, and it's all in China, made in China, and you don't know what's in the processing sometimes. And yeah,
I definitely would wash something before I put it on anymore or buy anything, wash it,
Yeah.
because you don't know what kind of chemicals they're using.
true. Yeah, that's true. Anybody else have any questions? Okay, how about show and tell?
I have a question.
Mhm.
Okay, go ahead, Ann.
Cindy, so how do you clean wool
Okay, if you bought a fleece,
fabric?
it's for fabric. Oh, it needs to be dry cleaned unless it's a superwash or a smart wool or a Florida wool. You just got to follow the instructions. But if it doesn't have any instructions, I would dry clean. And there again, you're getting, and that's not very good for the environment. But most of your wools today, I think, are superwash, and they can be. You can always wash them by hand. You can always wash them by hand.
Hmm.
It takes two things to felt it: heat and agitation, one or the other. And by heat, also, I mean, you can also, I've seen people take loosely spun wool and they want to make it a little stronger. So they dip it in hot water and then they dip it in cold water. And that literally felts some of the fiber together. So that's the things you got to be careful. You don't want extreme heat changes, and you don't want to agitate with heat. So wash it in cold water.
What kind of soap?
It's gotta
What
be,
kind of soap do you use?
excuse me?
What kind of
There's a good one. I don't use woolite, and I'll tell you why. Woolite will take the color out of your clothes. If you don't, I buy a specific wool soak called eucalypt, and I don't have to rinse it. But I use a lot of it. For people who just want to wash, the best thing you can wash wool in is your hair shampoo, because wool is the same pH as your hair, and if it smells good, even better. And if it's a little itchy, rinse it in a little conditioner. But don't use woolite. It's pretty harsh.
I use baby shampoo. It's
Same, yeah. Baby shampoo.
What I've done with wool, if I get wool from someone like that lady that up in North Carolina that gave us all those wools and they didn't have instructions, I'll cut a square and wash it first, either by hand or however I think I'm gonna wash it. Because when I make clothes, I don't want to send her to the dry cleaners all the time. I don't like the smell, and if I can wash it, I prefer it. So I cut a little piece and wash it, measure it first, see if it shrinks, see how the feel is, and A lot of times, like Cindy said, the newer wools are sometimes washable, at least hand washable. Just don't put them in the dryer.
No. They say
Unless you want to felt it.
well, now they say the superwash, technically you can put it in the dryer, but I just want to tell you, I have a pair of socks and they got smaller and smaller and they were, I don't think I even put them in the dryer, but they could still shrink a little and felt a little.
I will sometimes put fabric in the dryer for just a couple of minutes to get the wrinkles out on a low, because they come out of the washer kind of, crunched if you're doing them in the washer, and just put them in the dryer for a few minutes till the wrinkles kind of come out, then hang it up and it'll, help dry a little less wrinkled before you iron it.
And you're going to put your time into this project and you want to be able to take care of it properly. And so it is important to know how it's going to behave and what you're going to have to do. It's heartbreaking. I mean, I know we've all at least once taken something out of the dryer and it was tense. It just drew up to nothing.
Yeah. Anybody else have any questions? Okay, how about show and tell? Let me just go down the list. Paris, do you have anything?
No, not today.
Not today. How about Linda Sanita? No? Lois?
Yeah, I do.
All right, let me
I don't know how
spotlight.
you get a see of it.
Oh, how pretty.
It's,
Oh, wow.
It's a sampler.
yeah, it's a sample. I took a beginning quilting class, and this is what we made.
That's beautiful.
Very, very nice.
I thought you were already a quilter. I didn't know that.
I learned a lot. I mean, things I learned a long time ago have changed. So I thought it was time to take another class.
That's a great idea.
Yes. Okay, let me take you off. Let's see, let me go back up to gallery. Let's see, Marie, do you have anything?
Yeah.
No? Okay, Marilyn? No? No. Georgie?
No, I made a couple pair of pants and I have them on, so it'd be more than show and tell if I showed.
You don't want to show all that? Come on, Georgie.
I can't stand up that.
Okay, how's your back doing? Is it getting better?
I went to the doctor today and he said, no, I have osteoporosis and it's still degenerating and it will be another couple months before I can do any therapy for it because they want it to be finished with its healing before I do that. So I'm still suffering a little bit. Standing is a problem.
Oh,
So,
well, I hope you feel better soon.
but my sofa is still comfortable for me.
Karen? Do you have anything for show and tell, Karen Neal?
Got a couple of things. I can't remember if I showed one of them. Of course, we hadn't met in so long.
Oh, that's cute. All the,
Spotlight her, Jean. I can't see it.
yeah, wait, okay, let me spotlight. I'm sorry.
Do send me a
slipping on-
picture for the blog.
Oops, wait a minute. Where'd
That's
she
an
go?
applique. I don't do applique.
Wait, Kara, don't put it up yet.
Don't put
Kara.
it away.
There you go. Now.
Wow, now we got you on spotlight.
It's cute.
That is so cute.
Yeah, you got to send a picture of that.
I could
Yeah,
get
send that
into
to the blog.
Yes, I love it.
Wow.
Oh,
So cute.
And then I don't know if I can figure. Then I have this one with customers. I'm almost done with it. This mother hand pieced the center.
Oh,
Oh,
It's big.
oh my.
oh,
It's beautiful.
very
And
nice.
I added the borders here and quilted it and binding it, but it's old.
I did my
Nice.
great grandmother's.
That's pretty.
Oh, back. It's looking better on the back.
Oh, you did
Yeah.
well.
Beautiful.
Very pretty.
That's all.
Okay, let me remove, oops. All right, come on here. Get to the right spot. Barb disappeared. Where did she go? And Joanne, we don't see you.
Yes.
All right.
Speaking about wool, and maybe some of you had seen some of the things I have made, knitting and then felting. Can you see?
No, we can't see anything, Joanne. You're not on the video anymore.
How
You're
do
black.
how do I turn this around?
Look for a little camera and it'll say video, start video. You got to highlight maybe down around the bottom of your screen. Are you on a?
Oh,
We're seeing you before.
oh, I have it on camera.
Start video. If you're on a computer, it's probably on the bottom left.
Can you see?
No.
No.
Can you see anything?
No, no.
We saw you earlier.
Yeah, you were on earlier, but now it's just a black screen with your name.
If you take your little pointer
I
to the
can see.
mouse and go around the bottom off of your screen, but stay on Zoom, you may see something that says start video.
No. No. Well,
Joanne,
can you hear me?
We can
we can
hear
hear you.
You can hear me.
Yes.
I made some felted handbags years ago.
Oh,
I crocheted or I knitted them when we were doing craft shows to sell my craft shows. There were places in Pittsburgh, Mount Lebanon, that were selling them. They would sell none of mine, but for $100 and $200 because you knit them and they were much bigger until they were felted. And then I made, I'm sorry you can't see it, but I have pictures I can send to Cindy. It's a little girl's toddler dress that I made. And I also made a slip dress in peach. And that was pattern Simplicity 8562. And I made it over little coat like from a peach lace material. And it was from the New Look 6378. And that's all I've been making. I'm sorry. I don't know how to get on this. You can see
Well,
anything. Because
Send the pictures of those things to Cindy and she'll put it on the blog. Then we can see it.
so, yeah, I do have the pictures. I took them before the Zoom.
Okay.
And
Yeah,
I
send
can
them to
to
Cindy. Yeah, good,
Yeah.
great.
I'm
Okay.
sorry. I don't
That's
know.
okay.
You know.
Okay. Ann Edwards, do you have anything for show and tell?
No, I don't. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Andy? No? Diane Beck?
Nope, nothing today.
Okay. Doreen, we don't see you, so.
I just jumped in the shower before I joined you and was eating, so that's why I stayed secret, but I'm here and I have nothing to show and I smell good.
Oh, good. You smell wonderful.
My hair's still wet, but I'm good. I didn't like how I looked, so I decided you could just see the D.
Okay.
I'm here though. I'm here listening.
Good. Glad you're here. Cindy, do you have anything
Cindy.
else?
It's very
I do
informative.
have something.
Okay, Cindy, let me
Yeah, I do.
spotlight you.
Okay. I bought a pattern and it's from Russia. This is one, and I wanted to see how this would work. You put your measurements in and you print out the pattern to your size. And I didn't do any alterations. What I don't like, the waistbands, this is some horrible polyester that my mother had. They're going, I love the pockets and the way it's made. I think it needs a narrower waistband. And I think I need, and it has a little bit of elastic in the back, so I don't like that. That needs to be cinched up. But I think all in all, you know, to be the first one and a practice run, it's not a fail. It's a good way to start.
Mm.
Make a
Good.
pair of pull-on pants. And I want to probably write something up about that in the newsletter, because this pattern was only like $4.59.
Oh my
Wow.
God.
But you only get one size.
Well, that's all right. It's all you need, right?
Yep.
Good. Okay, thanks. All right. Well, I just wanted to, let me see. I don't think I can spotlight myself.
We see.
You okay? On GroupWorks, you know, they always have these various YouTube things and, you know, how to do something, but they had one not too long ago that included a free pattern, and it's for a quilt that was called Mix and Match. And she was using charm squares, and they were so brightly colored. And then she did a black in between that she did her quilting in that just made them pop. So I thought, oh, it was a free pattern. I would try it. And so I've started it. I just want to show you, you start each square with just 4 pieces of your, she used batiks, and I happen to have 3 packs of charms. So I thought, well, what the heck, you know, might as well use them. So you start with 4 squares, and you end up with this kind of a square when you're done. And this is the square
Oh,
that,
that's pretty.
you know, and they're so,
pretty.
they're just, I've got it, just a few of them. Once I got started, and I couldn't stop. And what I like is the colors are all so different and bright, and, you know, all these different colors. So I think I'm going to go ahead and do a little more. They're not all perfect, but, you know, with all these colors, you don't really notice the mistakes so much. And so it's just was kind of fun to try something that I, you know, a lot of times I just watch these things and then never do anything with them.
Can we find the charm packs and boutiques locally? Do any of the?
I actually won these, and I think that these came from Faust. I won them at the beach retreat, but the stores, I know Bernina has them, and Marietta's has them. You can buy the charm packs. I think there are usually 40 in a pack, and this one, to make the big quilt, took 3 packs. I don't know if I'll make it that big or not. Depends on, you know, how carried away I get with these. But I just thought it was kind of fun, and I don't know what I'll do for that inside square, if I'll use black or not. But I just, you know, I watch all these YouTube things and then put them aside and never do anything. So I thought, for a change, I'm going to try something.
So say again where you got that.
The GroupWorks that we can get.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I get something from them almost every day, and there's a lot of interesting things on there. Sometimes it's some historical things about sewing or fabric or whatever, and sometimes it's patterns.
What's
sometimes
the name
it's
of that pattern?
This pattern is called Mix and Match, and it was free. It's let's see. It's designed by Donna Jordan for Jordan Fabrics. So you could probably just Google Jordan Fabrics.
Yeah. Thank you.
And get the pattern. So it takes, if you do the whole big size, it takes 120 of the 5-inch charm squares.
No, I'm not into big sizes.
You're into big sizes. Well, that's
No, I'm
this
not
pattern
into
is
big
for the little
sizes.
ones. But you end
I
up
want
with
a little one.
yeah, you end up with a 7-inch square when you put it together.
That's
and it's
true.
really not that hard to assemble. It's pretty easy. But that's the pattern.
Thank
you.
you.
And that's all. I haven't been doing a whole lot of sewing either since I finished that jacket. I keep looking for some pants fabric and I'm not finding what I want, so I haven't done anything. But that's it. I'm not sewing a whole lot right now, and I need to get back to it. But I guess maybe this quilt will be my next project. So, anybody else? Okay, well, don't forget the social next Tuesday. Bring a lunch, bring a drink, bring something to show and tell to share if you want, or if you've got fabrics or patterns or books or whatever you'd like to donate to the trunk sale and the money goes to the chapter, that's great too. And if you can do some tote bags for the kids, that would be wonderful. We need some more of that. And I think Louise is going to get something out soon, and hopefully, you know, some directions will be in the newsletter. But in the meantime, any size tote bag works for those kids. And that's about it. Anybody have anything else?
One question on the tote bags. I know you said any size, but what is the I mean, what's a good size? I mean, what would really be best?
I think when we were making them, we were cutting them out like, 20, 21 inches by whatever,
Okay.
to get a fairly good size. And Louise did say that she wondered if we had been making them just with handles.
They
But
said
she
they
thought
want the
a closure of some
drawstring.
kind, drawstring, because we do that for the safe harbor. We do put a drawstring in. For the children, foster children, we hadn't been doing that. But, if they have to pack up quickly, maybe had drawstring or Velcro or something to close them would be a good idea, if you can do that. But they weren't particular about that. That wasn't a requirement when she asked them what they wanted, and neither was the size. So, I think we ended up with like a 20 by 21 or 19 by 20 size, something like that.
Okay.
Okay.
Fat quarter, maybe. Couple of fat quarters.
A couple fat quarters, that would work,
Yeah.
except I don't know if they're strong enough. I mean, we want
Yeah.
something kind of sturdy,
Well, you could use 2 layers maybe.
but yeah, you could use 2 layers.
Well,
A
fat
real
quarter
sturdy
size.
fat
Yeah.
quarter size. Yeah, that's good idea. Yeah, so that would be helpful. Anything else? Anybody have any other questions or comments or?
Jean, you can
Yes,
just regular cotton fabric if you like did a lining with it.
you could do that, sure. Mhm.
Or interface that probably.
Or
would work,
interface it,
too.
yeah, just to give it a little more strength, because, if
If
they
they
start
got-
filling it with a lot of
heavy.
stuff. Yeah,
Okay.
sure. Okay, anything
Will
else?
do. Thank you.
I need to.
Okay, well, thank you
Cindy,
all for coming to the
Karen,
meeting.
Can you
Everybody.
stay,
I'll
Karen?
see
Okay,
you
all right,
Oh.
bye.
Karen, can you stay a
Bye.
second?
Yes, ma'am.
Karen,
What, hon?
Yeah, I got you.
okay, Karen, I need to get some directions to her house.
Oh, okay.
Okay. All
Okay.
right.
Bye,
See you guys.
y'all.
Good job, Cindy.
All right, I'm not going to end it
I'm gonna
then, because
stop
I'll
the
shut everybody off.
recording.